Welcome back to Living History. We're talking with Helen Dixon about River Road, and we'll have a second program on Ludlum's The Gladwyne Colony. So Helen, before the break, we were talking about the Mill Creek Bridge, and I noticed I had earlier photographs, and it said that an original bridge was there in 1874, and then this bridge was built in 1930, I believe it said. And is this bridge still here?
That bridge is definitely still there and takes you right on River Road all the way up to across the railroad tracks. There are still many houses up along the river that were there before, and some new ones that are elaborate compared to what were there before.
All right, now let's go back to the store for a second. Could you tell when your family bought the store? You said Mrs. Sohn owned.
Mrs. Sohn owned it. Her husband built it, and she ran it for years. And after he died, then she wanted to sell. And we were in no position. I was in high school, so she had somebody running it for her for a while, and they were like almost running it to the ground. So then my dad bought it, and he paid $5,000 for it, but that was back in the day. The expressway was going to be built, but it had already started up in the Conshohocken area, and people had to come all the way down to Manayunk, so to get refreshment, or lunch or anything. So we built the store up sale-wise. I mean, to say that there were $10,000 worth of sales for a year was saying a lot, because she was only making in the hundreds. But all the people that lived on River Road, many of them, we had a book, and they'd say, put it on the book, put it on the book. Well, after Mom died, that was the end of the book. You could forget it.
So they were asking to buy on credit, but then they didn't pay.
At the end, yeah.
What else? Could you give me some prices, sample prices?
Oh, that in that day, Coca-Cola was 5 cents a bottle, no plastic, nothing. Ice cream was a nickel a cone. Two dips was 10 cents, and a sandwich was like 35 or 50 cents, depending on what you got. Soup, the same thing. A bowl or a cup was a quarter or 35 cents. And the store was open from 7 in the morning until 11 at night. And at lunchtime, you couldn't move in the store. They just kept coming in and coming in and coming in.
And you were alone?
And I was alone. And I'd make big pots of soup every day. And
wow. And you'd have to do that probably when you weren't working, weren't you? I mean,
I wasn't working. I had by this time I had 2 little girls, and I was pregnant with my older son, and that's when I quit. I couldn't.
But you were living in the
I was
house?
living beside there. Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad and mother and I traded houses.
Oh.
They moved in here because so they could be next to the, because you could ring the bell if the store was locked. You could ring the bell and somebody would come out. It was just a country kind of thing. And we moved down at the park where the outhouses are today.
Okay.
That was our house. It's shown on the map here down.
Okay.
The very last house down.
All right. And did these houses on our chart, did these houses stay until the expressway was built, or until the township?
People were living in all those houses. I mean, we lived here. My friend Nancy Boyle lived behind here. Hanses lived here. They eventually bought the junkyard down the road that Sam Bass owned. And I moved off of the road, moved out of there and off the River Road to Belmont Hills when my older son was not quite 3. And we moved on top, in an apartment on top of what is now La Colina. It was owned by Alfred Baffa at the time. And we lived there 9.5 years. And then when I moved down there, I got a job with a contractor. Samuel LaPera Incorporated, and we had an office in Manayunk, and he sold me three big lots up on Price Street, 25 feet each by 100, and I built our first house in 1962. I made sketches, and that was my blueprints, and the township approved them, and we built the house.
Was before the expressway, did people use River Road to go from Conshohocken to Manayunk?
Always. It was, the traffic on that road was tremendous. Big tanker trucks coming, and they always stopped at the store. I mean, we always got, people just, Bob Hope came in the store one time. He was going up to the Philadelphia Country Club. And they stopped, he and his entourage stopped, and they had cold sodas. They were going for a golf tournament. And God, don't ask me when, I can't remember the date. But I remember a terrible accident down near Hollow Road.
Okay.
A tractor and trailer jackknifed, and the driver was thrown out and under the wheels. And it's,
now,
sad.
Where did you shop?
Manayunk.
Okay.
We all the time that my dad and I lived here, mainly was just the two of us, and we would walk down Manayunk and across the bridge. I mean, walk down River Road,
Bridge.
Walk across the Green Lane Bridge, and then shop in Manayunk. And then after he got a car, we went down there every Friday night. It was a ritual, and all the different stores down on Main Street. One was a butter store. One was
well, how'd you get the stuff home?
We carried it in our arms.
Wow, wow. No little cart or anything,
Nothing.
wagons?
Nope.
Or,
But after you got a car, then we'd stop and go to a movie.
Okay.
On Friday night. That's what everybody did.
Now, didn't you say your dad, did he work for the Bud Company?
He worked for Edward G. Budd. He quit James Peterson's son, and he went to work for Edward G. Budd during beginning of the war when things were picking up. And he worked there as a machinist in 5R. And then the fact that he was not a citizen, he was a German, and the fact that he was not a citizen, the federal people made him lose his job, and they took him away for 6 weeks to investigate him. And I was 14 at the time and lived in that house alone for 6 weeks.
Because your mom was working at Ludlum.
Because my mother lived there.
And only coming home once or twice a week.
Yeah. And that's...
could you describe this picture, what it shows?
This shows a group of houses. If you were coming from Manayunk, they started here. There was a big empty lot on the corner where it used to be an ice house. Glenwillow. And then these houses started, and then beyond them there was another row up higher. They set back a little bit from the road, and that went on down to Flat. Is that Haggis Ford or is that Flat Rock that comes down through there?
Well, Ashland Avenue used to come down
and this
go
is
over
not
the tracks.
up there.
Okay. Okay.
This is straight up River Road.
Okay.
And if you went past there, the tunnel was there.
Yes.
And then the dam on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And you went around that sharp curve.
Yes, yes. And then you'd come to Flat Rock Park eventually.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we have three minutes here to get in about flooding.
Oh, my
goodness. Could you tell me about flooding?
Oh, we had floods. Sometimes the police had to come and take us. They would have ropes tied to canoes up against the house, and they'd put you in it and pull you up to railroad tie. And one time we had to live up on Hollow Road for 3 days in the car. We had to sleep in the car because the store always got flooded. The last time we lifted everything up and put it on
how deep in the store?
In the store, about 2 feet. It was 3 feet in the house.
What about your coolers?
We lifted them up and put them on the crates, soda crates.
What a pain, what a pain. Now, you told me a story about jumping off the railroad bridge. Wow.
That one flood that we had, the water was up higher than this, and it was warm. And we dove off, a bunch of us dove off that, right onto River Road.
It's really hard to believe.
It's true.
Yeah. Now, sometimes people got rescued. You
yes,
were mentioning the canoes.
that's how they did it.
Yeah. And we have 2 minutes here before our next break. We have a whole bunch of pictures of River Road houses, and I put them in here just to show that there were a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of these people would come into your store and buy things.
Absolutely.
Would they buy milk and bread and
no
cigarettes?
milk. We never carried milk. Milkman came around.
Okay.
We always had, but they always bought bread and tasty cakes and sodas, ice cream, candy, cigarettes.
Okay. Were some of those houses built against old ruined walls?
Walls, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Like the Knickerbocker Ice Company walls?
Yeah, right.
Okay. And did you sometimes swim in the river?
Sometimes. Soon as the weather, we were there every day, every day.
Wow. And I guess theoretically the river was more polluted then than it is today.
It was. We didn't know it.
And here you are at 84, you're still here.
And I'm still
Helen, you were talking about swimming in the river. There were no lifeguards, there were no safety.
I never went in when I was young until my father would come home from work. And as soon as the weather was good, from 5 years old up, he and I were in that river every blessed day. And it was nothing to see many people on their piers. You'd jump in, you'd get wet, you'd soap up with soap. And
you're using it like a shower.
Yeah, because you had to carry water, so because you had no water in the houses.
I see.
And all summer long we bathed in the Schuylkill River.
Wow.
And then as I got older, my dad and I would swim across to the other side almost every day.
Was it cold?
No, it was like toast, like a bathtub, always.
Now,
but it wasn't dredged until much later. We never knew.
Now, why did you and I agree to do this show today? What was our point?
Well, because both of us are into history and historical, and we thought that some of these things ought to be preserved for the younger generation coming up.
Good.
I know when I talk to my grandsons who live in Belmont Hills sometimes, they're wrapped by what the little stories that I come out with, you know, and.
Well, thanks very much for sharing.
I appreciate your
today,
asking me.
I hope that we'll have you back again.
Thank you. I'd like to tell you about Dr.
Ludlum. Oh, I hope so. Good. Thank you for tuning in to Living History with Ted Goldsborough, and we hope that you'll join us for our next program. Goodbye.